Verify team is here to separate fact from fiction throughout this pandemic. And we've received a lot of questions about contact tracing and your privacy. So let's verify, does contact tracing violate HIPAA laws? Our sources are Roger Severino, the director of the Office for Civil Rights, part of the Department of Health and Human Services, and attorney Ileana Peters, who specializes in data privacy and security. Both our sources say the answer here is no.
The vast majority of entities that conduct contact tracing aren't actually covered by HIPAA.
Peters says that HIPAA actually only applies to entities that take health insurance or offer pay related to health insurance, as well as the vendors that provide services to those entities, for example, hospitals and doctors' offices. Director Severino agrees and explains that those entities can share information with the CDC and public health authorities.
Where there's an imminent threat to the health and safety of somebody, and when you have a very dangerous infectious disease, there are occasions where they can share that information for contact tracing purposes.
So we can verify that no, our sources say that contact tracing is not in violation of HIPAA laws. With your Verify, I'm Evan Kozlov.